Over the last week, Bethesda has been in the news many times for a variety of reasons. We got an Inside the Vault, multiple interviews for Fallout's anniversary, and Pete Hines even got a promotion. So I hope you can understand why it took me so long to put this episode together. Anyway, there's a lot to unpack, so strap yourself in and enjoy the ride.
And here we go.
Since there was so much news, I didn't know where to start, so I decided to start with Pete Hines. It was announced that Pete was promoted from Senior Vice President of Global Marketing and Communications for Bethesda Softworks to the Head of Global Publishing. Taking his old position will be Aaron Losey. For those of you who didn't know, Aaron has been Vice President of Global Marketing since 2019 and has been with Bethesda since 2005. Pete Hines has been with Bethesda since 1999 and has primarily been involved with public relations and marketing. Pete said, "It's a privilege to lead global publishing for Bethesda. It's a place that's been my home for 23 years. It's humbling to think about how far we've come in that time, and I'm excited to work within this new role to help our world-class team make great games." Aaron said, "When I started at Bethesda, there was just a few of us working on campaigns for Skyrim, Fallout 3, and more. Since then, we've grown into a world-class marketing and communications team, and it's been my great joy to be part of that growth alongside Pete. It's an honor to join Bethesda's senior leadership and now lead an award-winning global team of creatives into the future and empower them to continue their great work in our upcoming lineup." Phil Spencer commented on this as well. He said, "Pete has been key to the success of Bethesda over the last 2 decades. His industry leadership and strong relationship with the community has extended Bethesda to millions of players. Aaron has been instrumental in shaping the Bethesda brand and the teams behind it, and I'm incredibly excited to see them both bring Bethesda's games to even more players around the world. Personally, I'm happy for both Pete and Aaron. They are both great people, and I wish them nothing but the best in their new roles." Next, PC Games interviewed former Bethesda developer Nate Perkypile. They were talking about what he would like to see in the next Fallout game. While Nate does not know what will happen in the next Fallout game, he does have some hopes. Nate said, "Whatever I want to do is probably not what they want to do. I don't think it will ever go outside of America for the core games personally. So it's a matter of picking the places in America that would be the coolest and niche. I personally would say New Orleans or Colorado." Nate continued, "New Orleans always sounded like a really cool one to me. I've also personally wanted them to get maybe a little wider and bring vehicles in eventually. But I don't know if that would ever happen either, because it's a very different approach when you're designing a world with vehicles. The spacing of everything is completely different. Kinda like that Mad Max game." Nate also had some things to say about Starfield and gives some more insight as to why he left Bethesda. When talking about Starfield's size and scope, this is what Nate had to say. "The scope of that project was the main thing that's different, because, Fallout 3, Skyrim, Fallout 4, that was all one team. Fallout 76, that was 2 mostly. We had a little bit of help from Montreal, but it was mostly Austin and Maryland studios working together. But yeah, Starfield is a much bigger project. It's like 500 people or something on the team, whereas I think Fallout 76 was maybe 200 tops. The much larger team working on Starfield was one of the reasons why Nate left and decided to make games on his own." Nate also said, "There's not always solved problems for how things should look, which can be so many particular things, like what shapes are the metal panels, how do they bolt things together, what colors do they use, what materials do they have, how do you make a difference between all these different areas? So that's much harder versus if you asked me like, hey, make another follow-up game. You have to figure out everything, and there's all this extrapolative fiction to figure out too. You'd be shocked how many metal panels they did in concept. I can't really go into the tech details of it. The map of Fallout 76 is like almost 2 times the size of Skyrim or so, and that was a lot of work for people to do. But yeah, it doesn't scale. Even if you wanted to hire outsourcing, you'd have to hire like a country. Realistically, it's a fraction of the team actually working on planets. Nate didn't get into specifics as to how this is done, which is understandable. Nate also touched on the Elder Scrolls 6 reveal. So they have to be like, look, we're gonna set expectations. At this point, it's been more than 10 years. That's pretty unheard of to go that long without a sequel. Sure, there's the Elder Scrolls Online, but frankly, I view that as kind of like a separate market for the MMO group. I think letting people know that it's going to be a while before that is definitely part of it. I know that Nate has never liked working in large groups, but I for one will miss his input and level of detail in future games. That said, if you want to support Nate in his future endeavors, go check out his soon-to-be released monster hunting game called The Axis Unseen on Steam. For those of you who didn't know, Fallout turned 25 years old on October 10th. As part of that celebration, today, October 11th, Fallout Shelter got its first update in over 4 years. There is a lot that has been added into the game, so if you have played it in the past, now is certainly the time to update it and get back into it. There are new quests, weapons, outfits, dwellers, enemies, and the list goes on. Basically, there is a lot to do with that mobile game, so it is well worth checking out, especially since it is free to play. Bethesda also released a short video called Conceiving Fallout, a retrospective. Let's take a look.
So I think whenever we're trying to come up with a new world, and Fallout being in this new world that was getting created, particularly by Tim Kaine and Jason Anderson and Leonard Boyarsky, they were really trying to figure out what this special sauce was. What was the thing that was going to make it feel like something different?
We had a fantastic team. What I did was I would stay at work after hours in a conference room, and I'd order pizza, and I'd tell people if they wanted to come to the conference room after they were done with their work, we could talk about games.
Tim Kaine, who was the producer / lead producer / game director at the time, he knew that he wanted to make an RPG where the player had a lot of choice in what they did. And we, I think as a group, came up with the idea that you could talk or fight or steal your way through the whole game, which was kind of a revolutionary idea in those days.
I shall believe you for now.
Now, the thing about Leonard is he's kind of a dark guy. Everything's kind of gloomy. So I told him, I said, if we make this game, I don't want it to be all depressing. There's got to be a humor to it. And that turned out to be something he calls the special sauce, because we ended up with this world that's funny, but very morbidly funny.
I had this really long drive back and forth to work. One day I'm like, it would be a really good idea to make this kind of like an idealized 1950s future that an apocalypse happened to it.
One day he said, what if we did what the 1950s thought the future was going to be like? So big robots and flying cars and just all kinds of insane atomic-powered things. And he really wanted to do that. And I have to admit, at first I was like, I don't get it, but let's see where this goes. And I'd say within 6 months, everybody got it, and they loved it.
The juxtaposition of the kind of the innocence of the 50s with the violence that was going on.
It was this sense of sort of comedic irony, I think, in the end, and it would create what would seem awful a lot of times, but it would kind of make you laugh.
Oh, don't get carried away there, big fella.
That was great. It's nice to see this kind of retrospective take place because it gives us some insight into the thought processes that went on while coming up with the idea for Fallout 1. We also got an Inside the Vault article which gave us an update on the next public test server testing. This will give us a chance to check out the Nuka World on Tour update coming later this year. Testing, however, is going to be a bit different. This time, and most likely going forward, The PTS will be live one week and down the next, and this will repeat for the duration of the testing. The reason for this change is because it gives the dev team a chance to work on fixes and updates from feedback rather than continuing to get a mass amount of information about things they are already working on to fix. It will cut down on the list of things to fix and overall will provide everyone a much better experience. This is a good move for Bethesda to make, and this is why I think it will be this way going forward. As for when we will be able to first start the testing, that will happen Thursday, October 13th. As I have stated before, if you already have a copy of Fallout 76 on PC, then you will have access to the PTS. I suggest that everyone who can goes in and tests out the new things coming to the live servers later this year. So what are we getting in this update? Well, there's a lot, starting with some new public events. The first one is called Most Wanted. In this event, you will head over to Wild West Town, where Gunther is putting on a good old-fashioned showdown. All he needs is a hotshot gunslinger like you to perform as an outlaw. Your goal is to defend your loot from the robot sheriff. The next event is called Spin the Wheel. For this one, you will join Bottle and Cappy in the Big Top Tent and become a contestant in the Spin the Wheel game show. The rules are simple. Press the button to spin the wheel inside the Big Top Tent and then take on any challenge it selects. You will then have to defend the mascots from the unique combinations of enemy creatures, go Brahmin tipping, dodge frag stags, and more. Survive all 5 rounds and you will win prizes. The next event is called Tunnel of Love. This romantic ride needs some work. Mr. Lovely needs a helping hand to make repairs and finish decorating the tunnel. This will take us into the depths of a mine shaft to hang a heart-shaped decor. I mean, what could go wrong? We only need to venture into an abandoned mine shaft, right? Lastly, the big one called Seismic Activity. This one will have you take on the Ultrasight Titan. Pete has been hard at work trying to repair the air filters throughout the carnival. However, the parts he needs are scattered deep within the earth, in an abandoned mine shaft. He's also convinced that a massive creature has made its home down there. Our job is to investigate and launch an attack that is powerful enough to blast the fiend to smithereens. However, if the beast survives, we will have to confront it and defeat it. There are also some other games to play in the Nuke-acade. There you will find such games as Bandit Roundup, Nuka Zapper Race, and Wakakami, as well as Bottle Blaster. Each of these will give you Nuke-acade points, which you can redeem for prizes. Of course, no real details were given about any of these events, and I assume the details will be released once the PTS is available to playtest. I will cover that information in the next episode. We are also getting the highly anticipated Free Camp. Free Camp is a new quality of life feature that will help the camp building community. When you enter build mode, you will be able to separate the game camera from your character. It will allow you to move around your camp easily while building, so you can adjust your position without your character being in the way. I am very happy they are doing this because I hate the current build system. I only hope that they are adding this option to photo mode as well, because that would be so much easier for our virtual photography community, which is easily as big as the camp builders. Wow, that was a lot of information to pack into one news episode, but it had to be done since I am only one man and my time is limited. I hope that you got something out of it. Links to everything in the episode are in the description below. For now, I want to hear from you. What do you think of the new PTS rotation? Are you interested to learn more about the next update for 76? Sound off in the comments below. While you're at it, like, subscribe, and share. As always, I'm just glad you stopped by, and I'll see you in the next one.